Mhm. All right, I'll see you in like a minute.
Okay.
Welcome to Networking with Nathaniel, a podcast where I get to talk to entrepreneurs, high level entrepreneurs, typically, who I get to learn from, network with, and just share value and experience with you guys, the listeners. Today, I have a special guest. We're actually pre recording this about a week ahead because I am in the air right now flying to California. Um, and so, my guest today has been in the mortgage space as a mortgage broker for over 20 years now. Started out as an underwriter, so knows the numbers in and out. Over 100 lenders that she works with. Before that, though, she's a mom. She's got a 16-year-old and a 7-year-old. I'm really excited to chat with today, Miss Liz Lopez. We've chatted before a few times here. We haven't actually done a deal together yet, but I haven't brought you very many opportunities yet either. So no fault to you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me
Yeah.
on here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I know I mentioned that we were actually supposed to be doing this live. Travel things happened, and I did not realize that I double booked myself in a sense. And so, as this is airing right now, we are probably in a jet with the chaos of 3 kids under 4
Oh,
happening. Yeah, so um, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you adjusting. I know you have a really busy schedule. I mentioned that you started as an underwriter. You've been in the mortgage space for over 20 years now, and you have a lot of lenders that you work with. I know that there are probably things that are overlapping for a lot of the lenders, and there are probably things that are very specific to certain lenders. So, as the expert here, I would kind of like lean on you to where should we start this conversation?
yeah. So, I started in 2005 before there were even licensing laws for loan originators back then. I started as an originator and I wasn't very good at it. And I decided, to get into retail, go into processing. I worked my way up, became an underwriter. So I was a conventional FHA and VA underwriter for 12 years. And then after that, I went on to be a branch manager at Fairway. So I got an extensive background in the mortgage industry. And the last 2.5 years, I've been a licensed loan officer, and I've also been a real estate investor since 2018. I thought it would be a good segue just to, focus on DSCR loans since I was in that space, and it paid off. I love it. I
Yeah.
specialize in DSCR. Last year I was higher producer at Nexa. I closed over 115 of these loans in 2024. And I'm constantly going to events and lender events trying to meet new lenders because you never know when I'm going to meet a new lender that's got a niche guideline that other lenders
Mm,
don't have.
yeah. You mentioned that you were not good as the originator. Why not?
I hated giving bad news, and you have to be okay with that in this business. You got to have thick skin in order to
Mm,
make it as an originator specifically, but any position in the mortgage industry, you got to have thick skin because stuff's just going to go wrong. There's
mm,
so many people involved in one mortgage transaction that, if somebody's not doing their job right, or lenders is slow, or they're over conditioning on stuff. I mean, stuff just goes wrong. Appraised values come in low. There's things that are beyond my control. I have clients that have come to me, to do a 4 unit. We come to find out that it's zoned a duplex. And at that point, the lender's not going to move on because it won't, if it got torn down, it wouldn't be rebuilt as a fourplex. So there's just stuff
mhm.
beyond my control. And you've got to be okay giving bad news because it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, you mentioned how many hands are in the pot of a loan. Like that's why it takes so long sometimes, right? Like,
Yes, definitely.
paper
That
gets moved to one desk.
everybody's got to have their wheels on in the speed in order to make
Yeah.
these loans go through smoothly. Not to mention the lenders that we choose all have different speeds. Some of them take 4 days to get a loan into underwriting and then get a loan approval back, or some of them are 24 hours.
Mm.
So definitely need to know your lender, know how they work. Some of them have account managers that things have to go through before they can get over to underwriting. Some of them just goes right into underwriting. Every lender works differently, especially
Okay.
DSCR.
Yeah, so I wanted to, I don't know how much of the audience out there is familiar with DSCR and what exactly that is, debt service coverage ratio loan. Would you just like maybe a 60-second for a fifth grader explain what a DSCR loan is?
Yeah, so it is strictly an investment property loan. Cannot be done on the primary or second home. And the basic gist of it is, does your rental income cover your mortgage payment? If your rental income's 1,000 and your mortgage is 1,000, that's a 1-to-1 ratio. That's what most of these lenders want to see. There are no job and no income requirements with DSCR. So my investors love it because we're not going to be collecting tax returns. I'm not going to ask if you filed your tax returns. I'm not going to ask for your W-2s, your pay stubs. It is not DTI, debt to income ratio based whatsoever.
Hmm. If if a lender was asking for these things, a DSCR lender, does that throw up a like a red flag in the air?
Oh yeah, 100%. If they're asking for those things, this is not a DSCR loan.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, are there any other I'm sure there are plenty of them, but are there any other things that somebody should be aware of if they're not using, Liz to come through the
I mean,
DSC process?
beyond the income piece of it, the loan is very similar to a conventional loan. The appraisals are very similar. The way that the loans are underwritten are very similar, and that also varies with the lenders. But typically, we're going to get a loan application, pay for credit. We'll get you collect your documents because we're always going to need some basic documents. Get you submitted to the lender. Get your appraisal ordered in the meantime while we're waiting for it to get in front of an underwriter to get a loan approval. When we get a loan approval, you're always going to have other things. They're always going to ask for more items. Once we
Mm,
provide those back, get the appraisal back, as long as there's no issues, we should be able to go to closing. Typical turn time's
okay.
like a 30-day turn time, just like a conventional loan.
Yeah, okay. And I mean, you did mention that some will each lender has their own thing and some are able to close faster or do different types of loans. We specifically the previous times we've spoken, we're talking about co-living because that's what we're really focused on. Um, and so with those different variations, are there, I guess, yeah, are there different requirements, but I don't know. Yeah, you kind of already answered that, I guess, in a sense, but um, there's certain big overarching things, right? The appraisal of the property, the inspection of the property, but when we're niching into different hold strategies, there's different things that each lender is going to look at.
Yeah, so typically you first want to look at these loans from a long-term rents perspective. Does it qualify? Does a
Okay.
ratio meet that one ratio if we look at long-term rents? So if we're leasing it out on an annual lease, will that lease rental payment cover your mortgage payment? That's what we want to look at first. Reason being, once we get into short-term rentals, a lot of these lenders are going to be limiting your max loan to value, your max LTV by 5 or 10%. So you can normally get into these homes, at 20% down. When we're looking at a short-term rental, a lot of lenders are going to require 25, some of them 30% down to look at it as a short-term rental. Same with co-living. So co-living is like a short-term rental, but you're renting by the room instead of renting the whole house. So there's only actually a couple lenders that do co-living. Only a couple of my lenders actually know what a pad split is. Most of them don't even know what that is. I have
Yeah.
a feeling in the future, maybe they'll roll out some more different guidelines around that because it is becoming a more popular loan product.
Okay. Yeah. Having such a limited pool, it means that we have to be a little bit more focused on how we're entering a property. You mentioned that you started out as an underwriter, and that was where we first connected. Is like, how do I know where my end target is so I can bring it back to where I can purchase this property at? Because I want to be in it as little money out of my pocket as possible, if possible, if
Mhm.
possible, if possible. Wait, yeah, well,
So if
you,
you're doing it as a purchase, that's why I would say see if you can qualify with long-term rents. Because on a
mm,
purchase, we're just going to be asking the appraiser what is the long market rent for that property. They're going to be completing what's called a 1007 market rent analysis form, and they're going to tell us what the market rent is. So on a purchase, if you're not really sure of your exit strategy, I would say get in on it with long-term rents
yeah,
if that qualifies that way. If it
okay,
doesn't, the next thing I would say is let's look at it as a short-term rental. And most of these lenders are going to pull AirDNA. They're going to look at what the numbers are showing on AirDNA. They also want to see 60, 70% occupancy or higher. And then
okay,
we can look at qualifying you off of a short-term rental, which most of the lenders do have short-term rental guidelines. So it would need to be furnished, would need to be listed on one of the short-term rental websites. But
okay,
it could be a new short-term rental with no history. Because most of my investors, they purchase the property, they renovate it, they're going to furnish it, list it on one of those sites. Now we can go get the loan done, get you out of that hard money loan. And if down the road you decide to rent it by the room, I mean, that's just a different model that you're going to be running, but at least you're getting the financing for it. So,
yeah,
but
in
if
place.
you say you're buying the house and you're changing, now you're making it a 10-bedroom house where there's only 3-bedroom homes around it. Just keep in mind you're going to have some issues when it comes to getting that appraisal done. You're not going to have any comps. That's what a lot of my investors, I see them run into when they are doing pad splits or co-living. Just keep that in mind of how you're changing the structure of the house and if there's any other homes in the area that could compare to that one.
Yeah. One thing that I don't know if it wasn't you and I, let's just say that so you don't get in trouble. Um, Spoke about is going in, getting doing your rehab on the property, not changing any layout, going and getting your DSCR, your refinance out, and then going back in once that's in place, then adding your bedrooms. Would that be a no-no? Um, as far as, like, lending goes?
I would say look at your loan documents and what you're signing
Okay,
because every lender is going to have different stipulations in their loan docs. Some of them might say, you're signing something saying you're not going to use a short-term rental, and some of them might not have that in there.
okay,
So I would say just reading your loan documents more with a fine-tooth comb. Um, but I mean, if you play devil's advocate on the other side, if you did do that, I would say make the walls so that they're not permanent. A lot of investors put up walls that are temporary that you can pull down.
yeah,
And then on the other side, how will a lender know that you're even running that model different?
yeah. If the house burns down, they're like, "Wait, what is this extra ash here for?"
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
on the back end, I don't think a lender would know that you're running a
yeah,
different model on there.
yeah.
Uh,
Mm. You, you mentioned the one-to-one ratio. What is included, and I think I know the answer to this from our previous conversations, but what's included in uh what is it? The income side of the one, right? The rent side of the one. Is it literally just rent?
it is. It's
And
it's
so,
literally just your rental payment. What is that rental income going to be versus that mortgage payment? So when we're talking about the mortgage payment, or it's the mortgage payment all in, so principal, interest, property taxes, insurance. If there's an HOA, if you have flood insurance, that's going to be considered the whole mortgage payment.
so they're
And
really
yes,
leaving it up to the investor to, like, make sure that your numbers are right, because uh, most investors, you should not be doing one to one, it seems like.
well, um, a lot of investors just want to get in the property and they, like I mentioned, they might manage it a little differently down the road or
Okay.
on a purchase. We're going off of what the appraiser is going to tell us the market rent, but you can a lot of times get higher than what the appraiser is saying the market rent is
Okay.
going to be. Um, and I do my numbers up front with my clients. So I have them fill out with a DSCR inquiry form. It's a short jot form. It's the basic information I need to get a quote. You know, the property address, the taxes, insurance. What do you think the market rent is? But I'm also going to go behind that and do my own looking around and seeing what I think the market rent is. You know,
Okay.
your LLC structure matters. Some of these lenders don't allow layered LLCs. A lot of them do, but some of them don't. I actually just had a lender decline me because somebody's layered LLC, the second layer was incorporated. So that was the first time that I'd run into that before.
Really? Okay, so stay away from that one. No, I'm just Oh,
There's other lenders that'll do it. So it's just
yeah.
knowing the right, asking the right questions up front, sending things to the right lender. But like in this circumstance, and it happens often, things just happen. And you got to pivot, you know, pull the loan and just move to a different lender that'll be able to do it. A lot of, you know, the way that you learn in this business is by making mistakes,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. That's in my little time here on this world, that's what I've come to find, since I've been really dealing with this stuff is like go out there and fail at stuff. That's the way you're going to learn the
Mm-hmm.
quickest and the fastest is like just go take action. It may not be perfect, probably isn't going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you're going to learn and you're going to iterate. As a new client to you, I've got a property. Are there things that I should have like kind of ready at hand? You mentioned, what I'm thinking rent's going to be, what I'm thinking insurance and taxes are going to be. I mean, do you need my driver's license, things like that? Like what makes
Mm-hmm.
me a good client that makes your job the easiest?
So yes, we will need a copy of your driver's license and no, it can't be expired. We will be asking about your primary residence history. So if
Okay.
you rent, we'll need to know that. If you live rent free, we'll need to know that. Some of these lenders will not do the loan if you live rent free. Some of them will.
Mm.
So I definitely need to know that info up front. I always just say, just be transparent with me. You know, I've had people tell me they own the house when they're not even on the deed, when it's
Mm.
their girlfriend that owns the house or a family member. So just be transparent because underwriters are going to dig in there. They're going to find out whatever's going on. Um,
Yeah.
so your primary residence history matters. You know, any mortgages reporting on credit is really what the lenders are going to care about. They care about mortgages being paid on time. So if you
Mm.
have lates in the last year on mortgages, that's going to be an issue.
Okay. Yeah. So be prepared for that. Give yourself
Mm.
12 months of getting those lates off your record. You shouldn't be late. Come on, be on time. No, it
Right,
happens.
right.
Yeah, it does
And
happen.
then, you
Uh,
know, we'll need a copy of the lease agreement if it is currently leased out.
okay.
Um, your LLC entity docs if you want to close in an LLC. However, you don't have to. You can close in your personal name. All the lenders allow you to close in an LLC. Something for you to note is that some of the DSCR lenders will report the loan to your personal credit report. Some of them don't. Some of them do. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. People think they're DSCR, it's not going to be on your credit. They think it's a non-recourse loan. That's also incorrect information. If we're pulling credit, you're personally guaranteeing the loan. Even if it doesn't
Okay.
report in your credit report, eventually, if you stop making your payments, the lender would be able to come after you personally.
Okay. So it may not show up on my credit report if I'm doing my job, but if I do something wrong, then it'll populate on my credit report.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. And then you mentioned the recourse versus non-recourse. Would you explain what that is as well, Liz?
Yeah, so non-recourse means that we're just lending to the LLC. And if you defaulted on the loan and didn't make the payments, we would not be able to come after you personally. Recourse means that you are personally guaranteeing the loan. And
Mm.
I guess if you're talking to a lender and you're wondering if it's going to be recourse or not, if they're pulling your credit report, it will be it's a recourse loan.
Okay. Does does one come with more costs? Like, is a non-recourse loan typically more expensive in some way?
I don't even have any lenders that are non-recourse,
Okay.
so I couldn't
Okay.
answer that question.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I do on the commercial side. So I'm also a commercial broker, and I can do 5+ units, other types of financing. Things are definitely different when we're looking at 5+ units. You know, there's a higher DSCR ratio requirement. Usually
Okay.
it's 1.25. if you're a seasoned investor with multifamily, we can get you a non-recourse loan on the commercial side.
Gotcha. Okay. So no single family stuff. If you get a DSCR through single family, you could be responsible for it, and you should be. Um, what's the we're shooting this kind of towards the beginning of 2025. Not kind of. We're at the beginning of 2025 still. What's the big goal that you've set out for yourself for the rest of the year?
Well,
Oh,
I ended number 8 in units at Nexa last year out of
okay.
2,800 loan officers. My goal
Wow.
is to just do more loans, become more proficient at them. Like I mentioned, I'm also in the commercial space, so I've been focusing on uh, commercial clients more, just learning that whole area because it is fairly new to me, that commercial
Okay.
space. So my goal is to also, I'm talking on a lot more podcasts, talking a lot more meetups. Last week I was at a DSCR forum, speaking as a DSCR specialist in Miami. So as a panelist, so just
Okay.
putting myself out there, and I don't have any specific goals. I'm always just trying to learn more, grow more, network more, meet more people, and just get better at what I'm doing.
Yeah, I love that. Or you mentioned Brittany's trying to crawl behind right now. You mentioned that you were number 8 out of 2,800. I imagine that that's a lot of the networking and things like that. What were the biggest struggles for you getting to that number 8 spot?
The first 4 months of last year, I was still getting my name out there, and I wasn't even incredibly busy. Since
Okay.
April, I've had a consistent pipeline of, I'd say, about 15 loans. It's a just keeping the pipeline filled. I don't really have any struggles anymore in that area because of my social media presence and going out and talking at events and just educating the community. I have constant referrals all over the
Mm,
nation coming to me.
mm.
I can originate DSCR in the 50 states, so that's a great thing. You don't have to be licensed in all of the states to do DSCR loans. There's only about 10 states that require a license, a mortgage license.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so I do, I guess, caution your audience to just make sure you're really diving into who you're talking to when they're telling you they can do a DSCR loan, because there's so many new people out there just saying, "Oh, I can originate DSCR loans because you don't have a license." But if you're talking to somebody who's isn't in the trenches every day, you can get in a lot of trouble with your loans and lose your earnest money, and
Mm,
because there's a lot of moving pieces that and a lot of due diligence that our loan officers need to do to ask the right questions up front to make sure we're sending you the right lender.
yeah, I mean that's answering the kind of the question I was gonna lead into here a little bit. I'm guessing there's probably some other ones, but why, there's so many lenders out there that I can just do a Google search and find. Why come to a mortgage broker like yourself?
Well, you could take the time calling every one of those lenders to see if they can do your specific loan. Your credit
Yeah.
score matters. So every lender has a different set of guidelines, different minimum credit score, different minimum loan amount, different DSCR ratio, different cash out refi seasoning requirements. If you had your home listed on the MLS, so say you bought the house, you renovated it, you're trying to sell it, now you can't sell it, so you're going to a lender to get a hard money loan. Some lenders won't do it if it was
Mm,
listed on MLS. Some of them will make you have a prepay. Some of them will use the lower of the listing price versus the new value. So you could take the time and call all the lenders and see if they'll do your particular circumstance, or you could call somebody like me that's in the trenches every day. I originate tons of these loans. I know who to go to, what roadblocks we're going to run into, how long it takes with these lenders. Like we mentioned, I have over 100. No, I haven't used all 100 of them, but I've used a good probably 40 different lenders. So I have a great idea of how they work on the internal system.
mm,
Even if a lender says they can do a loan, can they actually close it? Some of these lenders, it's like pulling teeth to get these loans through. If the borrower's profile is more complicated, or if they have a lower FICO score, it definitely could be more challenging to get these loans
mm,
done. I have to fight a lot of times to get these loans done. More than one occasion, I've had to go to the CEO and message them on LinkedIn to get involved in my transaction just to get my loan
Wow.
closed.
Yeah. It sounds a little bit in a sense like having a transaction coordinator. Like if you could go out and do all the work yourself and have to call the attorneys and the title companies and go between the seller or the buyer or whatever part of the transaction, or you could have somebody who knows what the heck they're doing and has done this, a lot of times. I don't want to put a number on it, but um, that's going to take that off your plate, so you can go find more deals and do more, find more opportunities and do more things. So I don't want to call 100 lenders. I'm curious. You mentioned that you have 100, plus of these lenders, but only 40 of them you've closed deals with. What's kept the other 60 kind of not from closing a deal at this point?
They didn't have any niche guidelines that I needed them for. Um,
Okay.
a lot of them will go down on. I have a spreadsheet with all 100 lenders and all different tabs and what they'll do.
Yeah.
A lot of them will go lower on the credit score, and there's really no particular reason why I haven't sent them a loan versus sending somebody else a loan. If I find a lender that performs, I will typically, and they have good interest rates, I'll typically use them over
Yeah.
and over again. It's when I run into roadblocks, and like I mentioned, having to call the CEO to get involved with some of these lenders. There's probably a handful of lenders that I'll never use again because of various issues.
Yeah. I
And
can imagine.
another reason to come to a broker versus going directly to a lender, you're paying the same in fees. You're going to pay me as a loan originator. You're going to pay a loan originator with the lender. So it's
Uh,
the same. You're not paying more fees to go to a mortgage broker. The interest rates, I've been told that I can get lower interest rates than if you're going direct to the lender. And then
okay.
I have a lot of lenders that are not direct to consumer. They are specifically just wholesale lenders. So you couldn't even go to them if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. You couldn't find them. You got to go to one of them DSCR conventions
You have to
and
go to
just
a
network.
broker. Like
Yeah. Okay.
UWM is the largest wholesale lender in the US. They have no minimum loan amount on their DSCR loan product, but they are not direct to consumer. You have to go
Mm.
through a mortgage broker to be able to get a loan with them.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you mentioned, because a lot of lenders do have a minimum loan amount. I know this personally because we've have some properties that are, lower valued properly. Well, yeah, when you do the calculation of 75% or whatever the value is, it ends up being below a lot of lenders' thresholds, and you're like, wait, what? You're not going to lend on that? Okay, I should have just brought to Liz in the first place. Yeah, I didn't know you then, but
Yeah,
I
UWM
appreciate
is
you
my
being here.
only lender with no minimum loan amount. They all
Yeah.
have a
Okay.
minimum loan amount besides UWM.
Yeah, that's kind of. I mean, it's kind of crazy to me because it seems like they want to go out there and be getting their money out there and making a return on it, but at the same time, that's what got them here. They've
Mhm.
got lending guidelines, and they need
Mhm.
to stick to it. That's what their business plan is. You mentioned socials. We haven't talked about it. What social channels are you on? What's kind of working for you? Where can people find you?
I'm on all the social media channels. I post the most on Facebook. I'm starting to get post more on YouTube and other networks, but Facebook is definitely where I post the most.
Okay. Yeah, that's where, I mean, we're both in sub two. That's where I found you, is on Facebook. So reach out to her on Facebook. It's very easy. Those links will be in the description of the video here. We did talk before going live. I know that you've got another call coming up here in a little bit, so I want to make sure we get to the couple questions that we chatted about beforehand. You actually left the room to go get a couple books. I like to ask every guest on Networking with Nathaniel, you know, books that have influenced you as a woman, a mother, a business person, whatever kind of have touched your life. What books do you have for the listeners today? And for me, I like to keep
Well,
notes.
I picked up the three books that I most recently have been reading. Um, so I've been practicing my social media. I mean, excuse me, my stage presence and public speaking. That is a fear of mine. I'm an
Mm,
introvert at heart. Putting myself out there, doing these videos, talking at on stages is I'm getting more used to it. So I joined Jen Gottlier's Stage Leaders Group.
okay.
So Be Seen was one of the books that I'm currently reading. I just did. I was in her mastermind, and she basically is just teaching us how to be more comfortable on stage. Um, I mentioned I'm a commercial broker also, and I joined Cody Sanchez's mastermind,
Okay.
contrarian thinking. So that she teaches about buying businesses. That's
Yep.
my next thing. Also, want to get into buying my own businesses. So Main Street Millionaire was another book that I really
Yeah.
enjoy reading. And then I'm a big health nut. I work out, almost every day. If I didn't work out, I don't know what I would do with myself because this business is very stressful. You got to let it out some way, whether you're in real estate or mortgage. It's a stressful business.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was reading the Bulletproof Diet just to.
Okay.
I like to read different health books just to get different takes on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, I you would imagine this has been mainly real estate investors on the podcast at this point. The books that have shown up time and time again. Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? What's the brand? There's a Brandon Turner one that slips my mind, but Be Seen and Bulletproof Diet. Those are firsts on networking with fans. So congratulations, episode 70, whatever. What is this? 4. We have 2 firsts on there. So nice job, Liz. I'm I'm gonna look up the Bulletproof Diet. Kind of on the fitness,
Mhm.
I don't know, segue is I started a group for dads, specifically busy dads that, they feel like there's just not enough time in the day to eat healthy, to get exercise in. We started this community, Fit Fatherhood, specifically for that because, like you say, if I'm not getting some sort of movement in, some sort of, blood raising, elevating heart rate, I don't feel great throughout the day. I get that, like noon, afternoon crash, and you just don't feel good. So that's been a big part of my life for a long time. And I want to give back to people. So I appreciate you tossing that book in there. That's maybe a resource for myself as well that I can share with my community. I did
Aw.
ask a deeper question there of you, and I've asked this to at least most of the guests so far. When your time on this earth is done, what do you want to be remembered for by the people that you leave behind?
Just want to be remembered for being a loving, kind person, giving, um, having people say good things about me, uh, being there for other people. I'd love educating the community on things that I am more of an expert in, whether it be fitness or mortgage. And
Mm,
yeah, I don't like when people don't like me, although it is a nature of business and
yeah,
being human, right? Uh, so yeah, I just want to be left to people thinking good thoughts about me.
I love that. Yeah, they're probably few and far between, but unfortunately, there are people out there that won't like you and won't like me, and that's just the way the world goes. I just hope that they're having a bad day when they make that decision, and and that not in a negative way, but that they're having a rough day and they're like, I don't like that Nathaniel guy. Okay, I hope your day gets better. It was a pleasure having you on. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to be here with us. You mentioned Facebook. Is that the best way for me to, me or anybody out there listening to get a hold of you if they have a deal that they want to bring to you? Or is there a web portal or something that we can link in the show notes as well?
I love connecting with my investors. So I would say if you have something, just reach out. We'll set a call up. I love to get on the phone call, get to know you a little more. Where are you at? What's your investing experience like? Um, just talk to you and get to know you. After that, I'll transition into letting you know how you can fill out that DSAR inquiry form. I can send you the link to if somebody does have, property that they would like to get a quote on. No credit pull or app required for that. But yeah, I love to connect. So I just say reach out and schedule a call.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, she does keep a busy schedule. A lot of that is connecting with people, trying to get help them get their deals done and across the finish line. So reach out on Facebook. She's definitely a great person to know. I'm gonna boot you off, Liz. Would you hang tight though, just for a couple minutes? So that was Liz Lopez, a DSCR mortgage broker. Great person to know if you're trying to do deals that you want to get cash out refis, purchasing investment properties. That's a go-to product for investors out there. If you're watching this live, awesome. If you're watching this in the future, awesome as well. I'm not sure what the next week's going to look like. I will be traveling as well. So that one might be pre recorded as well. As always, Helping Hands Hour is Thursdays at noon. That's a place where you can come network with me and other investors, get your questions answered, and get unstuck. We've got a lot of cool connections actually that have happened there in the most recent weeks. And I did mention my Busy Dads group, Fit Fatherhood. You can search that in the show notes as well, or just go to Facebook, Fit Fatherhood, a community for busy dads. I appreciate y'all for being here. If you got any value out of the video, please leave a like there. Put a comment below on something that you took away from Miss Liz Lopez. And if you're not already subscribed, please do so. It helps the channel. It helps us reach more people. And that's all we're trying to do is help more people get invested in real estate and their entrepreneurial journeys. Until next time, later.